Hi my friends, welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you're new here, my name is Kayla, and if you're not new, thanks for coming back. Always happy to have you. If you are new, I like to do a lot of book, lifestyle, reading, and writing content here on this channel, so if you enjoy any of that stuff, make sure you think about sticking around. We would love to have you here with us. Today, I have a little bit of a disappointing video for you. I apologize in advance. We're doing my February 2023 reading wrap-up. For reference, read 6 books in January and was like, I am a freaking rock star. Nobody can touch this. Don't even try. And kind of thought I would ride that same wave into February, and that is very honestly not what happened. Reading was weird in February. It felt very much like I was in a slump. It was my first full month being unemployed, and I think that affected my mental health a lot more than I thought, and I just couldn't find something to hold the attention, the focus. We were squirrely. Okay, so I read a lot less in February compared to what I read in January. Ugh, I'm embarrassed to say I only read 3 books in total. I started and read chunks of a lot of them, but there were many that I DNF'd, either because I didn't like them or because I did like them. They just didn't hold my focus and I didn't end up finishing them throughout the month. But let's go ahead and talk about the ones that I did finish and get those out of the way first. We're just gonna go in order of how I read them, and some of them you might already know. If you've been watching my videos or if you follow me on Instagram, you're maybe familiar with some of these titles because I've been sharing them a bit lately. But the first is Big Boned by Jo Watson. I read this book while I was in Puerto Rico at the beginning of the month in February. Finished it in a whole day while I was there sitting on the beach. I did a whole video review dedicated to Big Boned, so I'm going to link that in the cards here for you guys. This is a fantastic read. I want to say I gave it 5 stars. This is a YA realistic fiction book about a girl named Lori Patty Palmer, who is a bigger body girl learning to come to terms with who she is, be confident in her own skin, and navigate moving to a new place to live. I really like this one. It was the bit of realistic fiction that I needed at the time, and this was a great read. It's just so like empowering and positive, so highly recommend this one. The next one I tried to read as a remedy to my reading slump, and to an extent it worked. Not as instantaneously as it normally does, but if I'm ever in a reading slump, I try and stay away from full-blown novels because they intimidate me. I feel trapped in a story, and I ultimately feel disappointed when I don't like them or I don't finish them. So I try and go with anthologies or short story collections, which is what I did here with Beasts and Beauty, Dangerous Tales by Salman Chainani. I've had this book for quite a bit. I want to say almost a year now. It's been on my shelf. These are dark and twisted retellings of fairy tales. They're very cool. I think I reviewed this one also. Kayla, I was on it for my reviews this month. I'm gonna link this video also in the cards above for you guys and in the description box, so you can go see my in-depth thoughts. These were just really fun versions of our classic favorite fairy tales with different cultural identities for our main characters, different darker endings for some of them. They were beautifully illustrated, and this was a great way for me to read but feel accomplished and that like I completed a story. This was a shorter book also. It's a kid's book. It's a middle grade book. So we've got full color pages and large font and large margins, and that's what I needed. So this, I think I gave 3 stars overall. There were some stories I think he could have elaborated a little bit more on. There were more stories I think he could have told. I think they could have been a little bit more darker. Overall, there was a little bit left lacking for me in this book. The last one I actually don't have the physical copy of. I already gave it to my mom, or left it in her Cape house in case somebody else wants to read. And I read my first Agatha Christie book. This was the read that made me feel kind of alive again, if I'm being completely honest with you. I read this book in less than 24 hours, honestly. I read this book and I was so excited to read it. Agatha Christie is one of the most prolific and published authors in history. She's written like 80 books or something crazy like that, and this is one of her most famous mysteries. It's a closed door whodunit mystery about This detective, I don't know how to say it. I'm going to butcher his pronunciation. I do apologize. I think it's Hercule Poirot. Not positive, not confident. We're moving on. Who is a detective who goes around solving these mysteries. He's on board this train when there are 12 other passengers, I want to say, and there are 13 other passengers and one turns up dead in the middle of the night. They've been stopped in a snowdrift and now they are potentially all stuck in a train car with a murderer. This book was a random purchase for me. I got it while I was in New York at McNally and Jackson in Brooklyn. I got it. I don't know why I was feeling like this feels right, but I was in New York. It was kind of a dreary, cloudy weekend, and I was taking the train home, which was the biggest inspiration for the Murder on the Orient Express. That was the biggest inspiration for my reading the Murder on the Orient Express. I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it be funny if we read a book about a murder on a train ride? So I bought it. And I read it. I started it on my train ride home. However, I'd been partying the night before a little bit, so I was a little bit tired. And I read in between naps on this 4-hour train ride, I'll be honest with you. But I read probably 2/3 of this book on that train ride. I actually ended up taking another train ride the next day. I took the train home to see my parents from Boston to Cape Cod. So I got to read a little bit more on that train ride and finished it then. I really liked The Murder on the Orient Express. I thought it would be really difficult to read and understand, but the way that this detective, I'm not going to say his name again, the way he goes about investigating these mysteries is organized into 3 parts. The way that Agatha Christie writes the story is in 3 clear parts. The first part is the mystery itself, what's happening. The middle is the investigation, the interviews, gathering of the evidence, and the last part is putting it all together and figuring out what happened. I think that went really well and very easy to follow, and for the first time in my life as a mystery and thriller reader, I was trying to solve the mystery. Did I get it right? No. Normally with those kinds of books, I'm just along for the ride and waiting for the author to tell me what happens, but this time I was like, he is laying out all of the evidence for me. He's going through the cable car. He is talking to all of these people, and I thought I had it. Thought I had it. I did not have it. But it was still a really enjoyable read. It was a fast read. It was a quick read. It was only about 260 pages. I gave that book 5 stars, I think. No, I gave it 4 stars because there is the ending was a little irritating for me. Not for what you're thinking. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't read it yet, so I'll put it in a separate comment down below, not my usual pinned comment. I'll leave it in a different one. But if you've read Agatha Christie and if you liked it, what is the next mystery I should read? Because I'm thinking Death on the Nile, but I'm not positive. There's some underrated ones. Let a girl know. Now let's talk about the ones that I did not finish. There is only one that I hard DNF'd, and that was The Prince of Song and Sea by Lindsay Miller. I got this book through Libby. This is, I'll put the cover somewhere. This is a new series by Disney Books that follows the Disney princes. This is coming out in anticipation of the new Little Mermaid coming out. It's a recent release. I was really excited about it. I didn't know that this series was starting or even a thing. Usually I'm pretty up on my Disney books coming out. So I was pretty shocked to see this one and very excited. I tried it in 2 formats and I just couldn't get into it. I will say I read probably about 75 pages of that book and I didn't really know where it was going, where it was headed, what the point was. And it could be that I just didn't really read the description of it, honestly, but there didn't feel like Ariel was coming in anytime soon. Like I had no idea how our princess was gonna work her way into this story. Basically what it followed was Eric, you know, while he is being kind of pressured by the nobles and the royals in this kingdom to find love and get married, he also has to break this curse that the first person he touches or falls in love with or kisses or whatever would die. So he's more focused on breaking that curse, and I don't know how that ties in with Ariel. It's definitely an original twist on the Little Mermaid movie. I couldn't quite see how it was going to get there. It didn't really hold my attention. I tried the audiobook and I tried the ebook. just wasn't doing it for me, honestly. And I was a little bit disappointed because it looked like a beautiful cover. It was like a watercolor of Prince Eric, and oh, it looked great. However, in practice and reading, it just wasn't the most exciting for me. The next I tried to read, and I'm really liking it, and I am going to finish it. I just didn't throughout this month. I kind of forgot about it, honestly. And that is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. I feel like I've talked about this book a couple times on my channel. It was in my February TBR, and it was in my most recent book haul. But The 10,000 Doors of January is a book about this girl whose father is supposed to like collect artifacts and magical objects and all these good things and bring them to like curators and collectors. And while she's traveling with him, she discovers doors into like different worlds and stories and things. I think this is really, really promising. What I've noticed is that Alex E. Harrow is a very lyrical, descriptive writer, and so it moves a bit slower. It's not as plot heavy or action heavy. It's definitely more just descriptive and a little bit more meandering. So it takes me a little bit longer to read, and like sometimes I have to reread passages, which is I think a bit part of why I didn't finish it this month. But I do like the concept. I do like what I'm reading. It's just a slower read for me. So I will get back to this. Just not done with it yet. This one I also talked about in my most recent book haul, and I have been going down a nostalgia memory lane, trying to reread and re-enjoy books that I loved as a kid, particularly ones that I remember in my like peak bookish era, like when the bookstore I used to work at first opened when I was like 15 or 16. The books that were coming out and were fresh and exciting, like 2015, 2016 booktube is like what I'm getting back into. And with that comes The Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. I read 130 pages of this and I was really, really enjoying it. I know exactly what went wrong with this book for me and where it fell off the bandwagon. I was reading this and diving on in at the same time that I got offered a job and I had to turn it down. That's the job I actually ended up taking, and I made it work with them. But it was actually really disappointing for me to like get excited about a job, want to do it, and then have to ultimately turn it down. And it felt like a very hopeless time for me. Once I turned that job down, I was like, I don't really know what's coming next. I don't really have anything else working or going for me. And it just felt like a very, very dark, scary time in my unemployment. And I got a little bit down in the dumps. I got a little depressed, I can't lie. And I think this book was just a casualty of that. I had been super interested in this literally up to getting the phone call. And then afterwards, I was just in such a slump. And I was just like, I don't want to read you when I'm sad. So now that we're a little bit past that, I think we can get back to this. I was really enjoying what I was reading, so I do want to keep going. And this will be finished for me, I think, in the next couple of weeks. And the last one, I didn't finish it, not because I wasn't interested or because of anything major and sad. I didn't finish it because I ran out of time. I actually started this on February 27th, and I was going to try and powerhouse read this in 24 hours, and I made good progress for one day, but I just ultimately wasn't able to finish it. That is This Poison Heart by Caitlyn Barron. I've been talking about this on my Instagram. I've been talking about it on here in my book haul and all these sorts of things. This is a retelling of The Secret Garden from the same author that wrote Cinderella is Dead, which I reviewed here on this channel. This follows a girl, Bree, who is left behind a sprawling mansion from her birth mother's sister. Bree has these powers to allow plants to grow, help them bloom, help them flourish, bring them back to life, all these very cool things. And she inherits this mansion that has an apothecary, and where I'm at in the story now, she's learning that this apothecary is to create medicinal herbal remedies to help people with different issues. And she's getting acclimated with that and kind of growing into her power. I have like 210-ish pages left of this, and I'm really enjoying it, so I fully plan on finishing it this week, but this will carry over to March. That's kind of an unfortunate wrap up for me. I'm a little bit bummed. I did definitely feel like I was in a reading slump this month and was just a little bit scattered with everything going on in real life and in reading. February was a scattered month for me. Overall, I think the things I did read and I finished, I really liked, which I just think was the right move for me. If it was good, to go through it, if I was all in, to finish it out, but if it something was feeling off, not to force it definitely helped. A little bit different than our normal wrap-ups, but I think I might want to start including these because I was doing some math and looking at my writing for this month, and I was really proud of my writing. If you watch my writing vlogs, or if you have watched them in the past, I really like them. They share my writing process, and they have productivity, like real-time sprints. Some people use them to read, some people use them to get something else done, some people use it to write. They're kind of for whatever you want to get done. I personally use them as a writing sprint, but in that time and focusing on creating writing vlogs and being in a more consistent writing routine, I wrote over 7,000 words of my work in progress. We came to a total of about 20,000 words. That, like, I wrote the most of my novel in the past month, in the month of February, than I have written since I started it. So I wrote like almost half of it in a complete month, which is nuts to me. I also wrote that 7,000 words translated to about 22 pages of writing, which is just wild for my manuscript to grow that much. It went from about 20 pages to, or sorry, about 30 pages to about 50 pages, which is crazy. To watch it grow that much and to see that progress, like, that feels like a landmark for me. To like have 50 pages of manuscript is a lot, and the farthest I've gotten in a writing project in a very long time. So where reading didn't maybe do as well this month, writing definitely improved, and we just kind of balanced each other out that way, and I'm okay with that. But I would love to know, what is the best book you read in February? What were you super excited about? What were you not so excited about? Is there anything you're looking forward to reading in March? Let me know in the comments down below. I will see you guys in my next one. Have a wonderful day wherever you are. Thank you so much for watching. Happy reading, and I'll see you real soon.